Good day, everyone. I am Jenebet Gassis. I'll be reporting Lesson 4, the Global Interstate System. Global Interstate System. It is the whole system of human interactions. The modern world system is structured politically as an interstate system, a system of competing and allying states. When we say global, it means worldwide. The whole world, considered as being closely connected by modern telecommunications such as Skype, messengers, video chat, and so on. And interstate means connecting or existing between two or more states. Effects of globalization to the government. So, what are the effects of globalization to the government? This time, we will tackle what are those effects. So, we will define first what is globalization. Globalization used to describe the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, and populations brought about by cross-border trade in goods and services, technology and flows of investment, people, and information. It is the sped up of movements and exchanges of human beings, goods and services, capital, technologies, or cultural practices all over the world. According to the disciplining hypothesis, globalization restrains governments by inducing increased budgetary pressure. As a consequence, governments shift their expenditures or the spending funds in favor of transfers and subsidies and away from capital expenditures. There are 4 challenges of the government. 1. Common challenges. 2. Regional or identity movement challenges. 3. Global economics. 4. Global social movements. We will tackle first common challenges. So there are 8 common challenges or situation that is unsatisfactory and causes difficulties for the government. International recruiting. It is the process involved in the searching and hiring of talented candidates from anywhere across the globe. Managing employee immigration. Helping employees meet the immigration requirements in each country where they work. The challenge lies in navigating the different rules for business visas or work permits and making sure that every worker has the right travel documents. Incurring tariffs and export fees. It is a tax levied by government on the value, including freight and insurance of imported products. Payroll and compliance challenges. Major challenge for companies that don't hire the right people to do the job. Loss of cultural identity. Cultural identity is established on the core values shared on a living society. It is understood that a culture loss seems to apparent in some communities where the main culture is weak. Foreign worker exploitation. Treating someone unfairly in order to benefit from their work. Global expansion difficulties. Operating in more than one country means dealing with more than one set of business regulations, taxes, fees, trade tariffs, and obstacles that need keen eye and experience to operate compliantly with. And lastly, immigration challenges and local job loss. Immigration affects the labor supply as it increases the pool of workers in certain sectors of the economy. When migrant workers are substitute for existing workers, immigration is expected increase competition for jobs and reduce wages in the short run. Next, challenges from regional or identity movements. Regional identity, a kind of spatial identity on a certain scale called the meso-level. It is located between the national and the local level. The era of globalization is posing a variety of challenges to national identity. In order to meet these challenges, it is important to offer theoretical scientific interpretations of them. A scrutiny or examination of national identity as a concept reveals that national identity is actually a 4-in-1 combination of 1. Institutional identity. 2. Interest identity means a situation in which a project participant has a direct or indirect interest in the ownership of an entity. 3. Cultural identity. It is the identity of belonging to a group. And lastly, non-national community identity. 4 ways to promote the construction of national identity in the global age. Promote reform of the political system. Explore democratic models of governance and create the institutional preconditions for national identity. Promote economic development. Ensure fairness and justice and guarantee interest in national identity. 3. Develop national culture. Strengthen value integration and enrich the cultural significance of national identity. Global economics. It is the interconnected worldwide economic activities that take place between multiple countries. Globalization may affect all sorts of other policy-relevant phenomena directly, including economic growth, income inequality, the tax structure, and so on. Issue or problems, global inequality and unequal economic development. Example of this is gender inequality and healthcare and social class. Global poverty, such as hunger, malnutrition, and lack of education. The exhaustion of non-renewable resources, depletion of the environmental and global warming, and systematic problems associated with inadequate regulation of financial markets. Lastly, global social movements, defined as transnational networks of actors that define their causes as global and organized protest, campaigns, and other forms of action that target more than one state and or international governmental organizations. It is a loosely organized but sustained campaign in support of a social goal, typically either the implementation of the prevention of a change in society's structure or values. Example of these are anti-nuclear groups, Mothers Against Drunk Driving or MADD, the Dreamers Movement for Immigration Reform, and the Human Rights Campaign's advocacy for marriage inequality.
Supporting the institutions that govern international relations. There are several international organizations that governments of countries around the world and individuals participate in. This includes the United Nations and non-governmental organizations promoting social and economic growth. The United Nations, or UN, is an international organization founded in 1945 after the Second World War by 51 countries. It is committed in maintaining international peace and security, developing friendly relations among nations, and promoting social progress, better living standards, and human rights. The UN also has 4 main purposes. First is to keep peace throughout the world. Number 2, to develop friendly relations among nations. Third is to help nations work together to improve the lives of poor people, to conquer hunger, diseases, and illiteracy, and to encourage respect for each other's rights and freedom. And lastly is to be center for harmonizing the motions of nations to achieve this goal. The UN is not also about fights. It has also programs like UNICEF, which is formerly called United Nations Fund from 1946 to 1953, is now United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund. It is a special program of the United Nations devoted to aiding national efforts to improve the health, nutrition, education, and general welfare of children. In terms of economic issues, the main focus of UN is the reduction of global inequality. What is global inequality? Global inequality means that not everybody has the same access to the same rights, opportunities, or quality of life. The Sustainable Development Goals are the blueprint to achieve a better, more sustainable future for all. They address the global challenges we face, like poverty, inequality, climate change, environmental degradation, peace, and justice. Environmental issues such as pollution and hazardous waste, or addressed through the United Nations Environment Program or UNEP is the leading environmental authority in the United Nations system. The UN also has International Court Justice or ICJ, which is usually referred as the World Court. Aside from these, there are also a variety of International Criminal Court or ICC and the International Tribunal Law of the Sea or ITLOS. The ICC or International Criminal Court was created to bring justice to the world's worst war criminals, but debate over the court still rages. The International Tribunal Law of the Sea is an independent judicial body established by the Third United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. The UN promotes and protects human rights. The Office of High Commissioner for Human Rights is the leading UN entity in human rights. The General Assembly entrusted both the High Commissioner and her office with a unique mandate to promote and protect all human rights for all people. The International Bill of Human Rights consists of Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is an international document adopted by United Nations General Assembly that enshrines the rights and freedom of all human beings. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights is a multilateral adopted by United Nations General Assembly on December 16, 1966 and came in from January 3, 1976. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights is a multilateral treaty adopted by United Nations General Assembly Resolution on 16th of December 1966 and in force from March 23, 1976 in accordance with Article 49 of the Covenant. NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO, was formed in 1949 with the signing of the Washington Treaty. It is a security alliance for 30 countries from North America and Europe. Its fundamental goal is to safeguard the allies' freedom and security by political and military means. Remains the principal security instrument of the transatlantic community and expression of its common democratic values. And lastly, NATO's enlargement has furthered the U.S. goal of a Europe whole, free, and at peace.
NGOs or non-governmental organizations provide sheltering, emergency food supplies, counseling services, and other vital support services to support response and promote the recovery of the victims. It is a voluntary group or institution with a social mission which operates independently from the government. NGOs exist in all parts of the world. Usually, NGOs are non-profit. That is, they are trying to do something other than make money for the people who run them. Examples of NGOs are Greenpeace International. It focuses campaigns on issues related to the protection of the environment and Earth. World Wildlife Fund, or WWF, the organization that mandate to protect and preserve the wilderness and reduce the human impact on environment. Doctors Without Borders, an international independent medical humanitarian NGO providing medical assistance to people affected by disasters, epidemics, and conflicts. And Peace Brigades International. World Trade Organization or WTO, the only global international organization dealing with the rules of trade between nations. It provides a framework of negotiation between participating countries. Some of the objectives of WTO or World Trade Organizations are free trade or trade without discrimination, to improve the standard of living of people in the member countries, and to ensure full employment and broad increase in effective demand. Roles of WTO. 1. It operates a global system of trade rules. 2. It's, it settles trade disputes between its members. 3. It acts as a forum for negotiating trade agreements. And lastly, it supports the needs of developing countries. The North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. It is the most important feature in the U.S.-Mexico bilateral commercial relationship. Immediately lofted tariffs on the majority of goods produced by the signatory nations. So it was signed by the United States, Canada, and Mexico on 1993 and went into effect on January 1, 1994. It was written to create a free trade area in North America. Free trade means that countries may freely trade goods with each other without having to pay a tariff or tax on those goods. In other words, no trade barriers.
Globalism and informationalism. Globalism seeks to describe and explain nothing more than a world which is characterized by networks of connections that span multi-continental distances. This is the four distinct dimensions of globalism. First is the economic. It involves long-distance flows of goods, services, and capital and information and perception accompany market exchange. Second is the military. Refers to long-distance networks in which force and the threat or promise of force are deployed. Third, environmental refers to the long-distance transport of materials in the atmosphere or oceans or of biological substances such as pathogens or genetic materials that affect health and human being. Last is the social. It involves movements of ideas, information, images, and of people who of course carry ideas and information with them. Informationalism refers to a technological paradigm that replaces and subsumes the previous paradigm of industrialism. It also manifests itself in the added importance of knowledge, information, and communication in the globalized world where human labor is increasingly involved in the production of immaterial goods. This ends our report, which is lesson 4, the global interstate system. Thank you.